Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Casey and I'm the designer behind Pattern Scout. Lately I have been in a bit of a holiday dress inspiration rabbit hole because a couple of videos back I started working on a dress to wear to a good friend's wedding. And I started that dress weeks ago because I was thinking, okay, I'm gonna get a head start. I got a lot going on. I'm gonna get a head start on this dress, work on it a little bit at a time over the next few weeks. And while I did start this dress very early with all the good intentions of finishing it early and not last minute, I ended up procrastinating so much that I finished it the day before the wedding at my parents' house. So originally I was thinking that this dress was going to be something kind of like this. I really loved this square neck, long sleeve, short kind of cocktail length dress. And I used my Bridget tee pattern to make this because it's a knit top pattern and the velvet that I was using for this dress is a stretch velvet. I already knew how this pattern fit. I didn't have to make any fit adjustments. I just had to make a few adjustments to the pattern to make it look a little bit more like this style. I was really happy with the style of the bodice, but once I added the sleeves, I started second guessing it because I wasn't thrilled with the way that the sleeves looked. And I was thinking that I might kind of chop the sleeve off to a 3/4 length and do a sort of bell style sleeve. So I really didn't have much left to do on this dress. I just had to add the skirt, but I knew I was gonna take off the sleeves, but I wanted to get the skirt on first. And so I created a skirt sloper a few years ago and I shared the process in this video here, and I'll put a link to that in the description as well. I knew I wanted to kind of create a fit and flare type skirt that was a little bit longer, so it was a little bit more flowy at the bottom. So I just did a slash and spread on that skirt to make it a little bit wider at the bottom. I also made it longer than I had originally anticipated because my thought process was, okay, if I don't like the long length, I can always chop it off and make it shorter. But if I make it short, then I've used my fabric and I can't really make it long, add more fabric onto it. So I attached the long skirt to the bodice, tried it on, and I was liking the longer skirt, but it definitely confirmed for me that I wanted to remove the sleeves. Because with the long sleeves, it almost felt a little too casual for the look that I was going for. I had found this dress on Pinterest and really loved the style of it. I think it's from Reformation. And this dress had little cap sleeves, but I thought I could probably get something pretty similar by just adding a little flutter kind of ruffle at the shoulder. So I removed the sleeves and I just created a little simple circle ruffle. So these circle ruffles are really easy to make. You just cut a circle shape where the inner part of the circle is long enough to go around the sleeve or the circumference of whatever you're putting the ruffle on. I made mine approximately 2.5 to 3 inches wide and then tapered that toward the ends. Then when you open up that circle and apply it to whatever you're putting the ruffle on, that longer edge becomes kind of a ruffled edge without having to do any gathering. It's a really great way to add a flutter sleeve to something. I love doing little ruffles like this. They're so simple to make. And because this stretch velvet that I was using doesn't fray, I didn't even have to hem it. I just made sure to get a nice clean cut around the edges and attached it to the shoulder, right sides together. Then I flipped it out and top stitched the seam allowance basically to the arm side to keep it all in place. And I'm not even sure where this idea came from, but I decided that I wanted to add a ruffle down at the bottom of the dress. It just felt like it needed something at the bottom. So I chopped the length a little bit and added a ruffle that made it kind of a T-length dress. And I was really actually pretty happy with how it turned out. Now I have had a bee in my bonnet about sewing things out of velvet for a really long time, and I really loved this green velvet that I found. I found it at Joann Fabrics, and I did pre-wash this fabric before I started making the dress. I always pre-wash all of my fabrics, and that brings me to the sponsor of today's video. Each year around the holidays, I have a lot of guilt about the extra trash that accumulates as a result of gift giving and receiving. And today's sponsor, Blueland, offers a simple and effective gift giving solution that reduces the amount of waste generated by everyday cleaning products. Blueland eliminates single-use plastics in their product components with reusable bottles, minimally packaged tablets, and no plastic packaging. Their tablet wrappers are also fully compostable. I personally love the idea of reducing the amount of single-use plastics in my home, and Blueland's products are free of phosphates, chlorine bleach, parabens, VOCs, ammonia, triclosan, and phthalates. And they are hypoallergenic and made from vegan and non-GMO ingredients. I tried Blueland's laundry detergent starter set and love how easy it is to use. As a sewist, I always make sure to pre-wash my fabrics before sewing. So I just dropped one of their laundry tablets directly into the drum of the washing machine, added my fabric, and started the cycle. It doesn't get any easier than that and gets me closer to making my next project. They also sent me their hand soap duo to try out. I just filled the reusable glass soap dispenser with warm water, dropped in the tablet, and in a few minutes I had a luxurious, lightly scented foaming hand soap. Blueland is sharing a special offer just for my viewers, so just click the link in the description below this video or scan this QR code to receive 15% off your first kit. And you can get additional savings by buying refills in bulk or setting up a subscription. Blueland subscriptions are customizable and convenient, so you never run out of your most used products. A big thank you to Blueland for sponsoring today's video. Okay, back to the video. Now, like I said, I was going down a rabbit hole of all of this dress inspiration on Pinterest, and I actually have a whole board dedicated to my dress inspiration on my Pinterest board. I'll be sure to share that down below. And I also have boards dedicated to each of my patterns, like inspiration for all the patterns that I sell in my pattern shop, which I'll also link below. So if you need some inspiration for things to sew, I got you covered, because I'm on Pinterest every single day. I don't do social media, so I do Pinterest. And so I have a lot of inspiration pinned over on Pinterest. So I'll share some of the dresses that I thought were really pretty. And I also found some patterns that you might be able to use to make similar dresses if you want to try these for yourself. A lot of the dress inspiration that I'm going to be sharing is made out of velvet, but you could make these out of like satins or silks. I think those would be really pretty too, especially for a holiday vibe. So I don't know, let's just get a little bit inspired. Some of these I still want to make. I actually did buy more velvet fabric to make something at some point down the road. I don't know when I'll need another velvet dress or another velvet anything, but I thought it would be fun to kind of share some of the inspiration that I found. So the two dresses that really inspired the direction that I ended up taking the dress to were this velvet tie shoulder dress. I thought this was so pretty, and I almost made something very similar to this and just added like some bows just attached to the shoulder of the Bridget T dress that I made, because it has a very similar shape in the front. This one I think has kind of like a backless, you know, the back comes down lower than the Bridget T does in the back, but it would be really easy to modify the Bridget T actually to make something like this. You could use the same bodice piece for the front and the back, and then have the ties come from those and tied at the shoulder. I think it'd be so pretty, but I really, really loved how this dress looked. And then the other dress that was kind of inspiring me, which I just shared, is this dress. I thought just the T-length with the black tights and the dressy shoes looked so good, and it's very similar to the way that I styled the dress. This one has a little cap sleeve, but it has that square neckline that's easy to achieve with the Bridget T, and stretch velvet is actually really easy to find, and it was extremely comfortable for a wedding. And also stretch velvet just hangs so well. Velvet in general, I feel like hangs really, really well and has a nice drape to it. So it was a perfect application for a dress like this. And if you didn't want to do the flutter sleeve like I did, you could easily modify the sleeves of the Bridget T to be a little cap sleeve, or even do something that has like a little gathered cap sleeve to, you know, mimic this dress a little bit more closely. I just think that is so cute, and I may have to make another dress at some point, but I really was inspired by this image a lot and tried to kind of go for something similar to this. Another dress style that I thought was really, really pretty was this V-neck dress with kind of a ruffle around the collar. This style of dress, I feel like, could go either way depending on the type of fabric that you use. This could be a great everyday dress if you're the kind of person that likes to wear dresses. You could style it with boots and a fun trench coat, or you could make it out of velvet, like the inspiration here. And I did pull a couple of patterns. I went to thefoldline.com and was kind of searching through some of their patterns to see if I could find something similar to that. And so I found this one pattern from Vicky Sews, and now this pattern is a little bit different, but the shape is kind of similar. But this one's kind of fun because it has these cool ruffles that are sewn into the bodice and to the sleeves that could be really fun if you had like a sheer fabric. This one has a little tie at the neck, but again, you could modify this and add a little ruffle around the neck. I do have a pattern called the Poppy Blouse that has kind of a ruffle collar that is attached at the neckline. You could do something like that here and modify this. And even that pattern, the Poppy Blouse, I mean, it is a looser fit, but if you made that into a dress and put a tie around the waist, you could also get a pretty similar style to this with kind of like an open neck at the front with a little bit of a higher collar. And I think that would be really pretty actually. Another pattern that I found that I thought would be really, really cute for a similar style, but something a little bit looser fitting, is this dress from Vogue. It's the Vogue 1780. And this one in the front looks very similar to the inspiration dress, but the back is a lot different, but also really cool. So the back has this bow in the back that is a nice detail, very dressy, and I think this would be so cool for a holiday dress. Another dress that I thought was really cute was this little kind of gathered bust slip style dress. And another one that's also similar to that is a tank dress that I found that has a little bit of a fitted bodice and a fit and flare skirt with a slit. Both of these were really cute and very simple styles that could be sewn out of a lot of different types of fabric. So again, you could do the velvet, you could do a satin, you could really have fun with the fabrics on these, and you could make something that's really dressy for a more fancy occasion, or you could make something that's a little bit more of a sundress for everyday wear in the warmer months. And I found this pattern from Burda. This is the Burda 6686, and it has a few different styles of like the bodice at the bust to kind of give you a different feel. So they have one that's a little bit more of a shaped fitted bodice, and then they have this style that has that gathered style at the bust to kind of give you that, sweeter, gathered kind of peasant style vibe. They have one version of this that has the spaghetti straps, and then they also have a version that has little cap sleeves again, which this could also potentially be another dupe for that other dress that I showed you that had the cap sleeves. Another dress that was an inspiration when I was initially thinking about how I wanted to design my little party dress was this kind of short above the knee length dress with long sleeves. So I had mentioned that I was thinking about doing some sleeves that have a little bit of a bell shape at the bottom, and I loved this dress because it's so simple. It would be a really easy sew, especially if you made it out of a knit. And I have a t-shirt pattern called the Comfy Tee that could be easily modified into something like this if you just kind of cut it off at the waist and then added a separate skirt that's a little bit more fitted. And you could even do like a fit and flare to kind of, have a little bit more floaty hemline. And one of the things that really drew me to this style early on was kind of the ease of construction. And if you have a fitted t-shirt pattern that you really like, you could easily modify that into something like this. You could make it out of the stretch velvet. You could make it out of like a ponte knit, which would be really comfortable and probably really easy to fit and to make. And if you wanted to do something in a non-stretch, this is a really easy style to modify from a basic bodice block and a basic skirt block and a basic sleeve block. I mean, it's a pretty simple style. I actually have a little class over on Skillshare about how to draft your own bodice block. I'll put the link to that in the description below this video as well. And I actually need to dig a little bit more, but I'll try to find a pattern that is similar to this. I don't have one right now, but I'll find one and I will put it here and I will link it in the description below this video. Another style that I thought was really cool and kind of a little bit more edgy and a little bit more unconventional was this mesh shirt with a slip dress over it. So Tammy Handmade has a dress called the Leona dress, and this dress, she released this a couple years ago and I saw it and I thought that is such a cute, very simple design. I mean, there's so much you can do with a dress like this, and she made a sample out of velvet. Of course, I was drawn to that. But this would be perfect for this type of style, to do this like kind of plunge V-neck style over a mesh shirt, kind of like this. And I actually have a video here on the channel where I turned my Comfy Tee into some mesh shirts. So I actually made this mesh shirt, and I also made one that's kind of a turtleneck mesh shirt, which I actually wore in my last video. But you could layer the mesh with the velvet and it would have this kind of really luxe, edgy, holiday vibe to it, which I love. I love the look of that. And a pattern like this would be so perfect. And this looks like it would be a pretty easy sew for, especially for beginners, if you're kind of new to knits. Something simple like this is going to be your BFF when it comes to sewing. So the Tessuti Fabric Sadie slip dress is another option for just a very simple, basic bias cut dress with spaghetti straps. I made this dress years ago, a really long time ago, early on in my sewing practice, and really loved how it turned out. And it's one of those dresses that I keep saying I want to make another one just like that in a new fabric. And actually I don't even know where that dress is. I've got it stored away somewhere. I haven't worn it recently at all, but I would love to make an updated version of this. This would be great for, again, a special occasion dress, depending on the type of fabric that you choose, or something that's a little bit more transitional or summer friendly, warm weather friendly. It's a great dress for layering, for that kind of 90s looks. I love pieces like this that are so versatile and easy to sew and kind of become those T&T tried and true patterns in your stash. Another dress that I love is this dress from Realization Par. This was actually an inspiration for my Ella dress. I released that pattern, oh my gosh, I can't remember, maybe earlier this year. And it's just a very simple bias cut dress. You can cut it on the bias or you can cut it on the straight grain. If you cut it on the bias, it has kind of that really nice body skimming effect. If you cut it on the straight grain, you get a little bit more of an A-line shape. It comes in a long, like midi length, and it also comes in an above the knee length. And it's just a great basic to have in your pattern stash. Now the pattern comes with facings to finish off the neckline and the armholes, but I think this would be so cool in a kind of sheer fabric with a lining underneath so that you do the lining instead of doing the facings. I think that would be just gorgeous. And my camera died, and that's probably a good place to stop. So let me know in the comments if you like this style of video or not, or if you prefer more tutorials or just a good mix of everything, because I am constantly, I'm talking constantly, pinning inspiration for sewing projects. It's one of my favorite things to do. If you like to sew, maybe you can relate to this, because sometimes the most fun part of sewing our own clothing is the planning process and dreaming up all the different ideas, especially if you have an interest in fashion, which I definitely do. So if you like stuff like this, just let me know in the comments. I don't know if I'm gonna have another sewing video before the end of the year, but I wanted to let you guys know that in 2025, I am very excited to start exploring my personal style a little bit more. I kind of already do that here on the channel, but I want to do a deep dive and really plan things out and think a lot about creating a wardrobe for myself that feels very me, works really well with my day-to-day lifestyle, and makes me feel like $1 million every time I walk out the door. I've already got some things lined up. I'm going to be talking a lot more about that kind of thing in the next year, so definitely stay tuned for that. If I don't see you before the end of the year, I hope you have a great holiday and a happy new year. And thank you all so much for being here and supporting this channel. It really means a lot to me. I think that is all I have for you today. I will see you in the next video. Bye. Thank you again to Blueland for sponsoring today's video. Be sure to click the link in my description or scan the QR code to receive 15% off your first kit.